Hello and welcome to Criminal History. These are the greatest depictions of hell in film. Whether you are a religious person or not, the concept of hell is a fascinating and terrifying thought. Trapped for eternity in suffering with no hope of redemption. Cinema has had various takes on the concept of hell over the years. These are some of the best examples of hell in cinematic history. Number 1. Constantine. Perhaps Constantine could be on another list of the most underrated or overlooked movies. The story follows Keanu Reeves as John Constantine, a paranormal investigator who can see unearthly figures among us, such as angels and demons. Why can he see them? Because he took his own life and before he was resuscitated and saw where he was headed. Hell. So in an attempt to save his soul and an afterlife of eternal misery, he tries to good deed his way into heaven. The scene of hell resembles a nuclear holocaust. A fiery, dark, soot-filled, cloudy, windy abyss of a world completely destroyed. A sea of devastation with destroyed cars and buildings, mirroring what may come on Earth itself if nuclear war breaks out. The layer beneath shows overcrowded people or lost souls screaming in fear and despair. Half-headless, demonic creatures also roam through the upper layer, who then run after and try and attack Constantine. Number 2. What Dreams May Come. One of the best depictions of both heaven and hell is shown in the film What Dreams May Come. This is not the usual upbeat, wacky Robin Williams film. It is perhaps heightened by the sight of him going through so much turmoil. Chris Nielsen, played by Williams, is run over and killed whilst trying to save others in a multi-car tunnel crash. For his selfless deeds, he is sent to heaven. This heaven is a personalised heaven, suited to all his wants and wishes. He has everything he could ever ask for except one thing: his wife. The depiction of heaven in this film is perhaps the most beautiful and artistic expression of it in all cinema. However, his wife is deeply depressed at losing her soulmate, and her love for him drives her directly to hell when she kills herself. So, Nielsen goes through hell to bring her back from an eternity of suffering. In this version of hell, suicide victims do not know they are dead. They deny the reality of their situation. And Chris is told his wife won't even see him, let alone recognise him. To reach across to hell, he travels a stormy sea on a rickety rowboat whilst shrieking, caped figures fly overhead. The water itself is filled with desperate, tortured souls clamouring to climb onto the boat to escape hell. The boat capsizes and he is cast into the water amongst them. He steps onto shore, climbing over broken bodies on the beach amongst fiery shipwrecks marking the gateway to hell. He then has to walk across a field of faces cemented into the earth that look up at him in despair, complaining and pleading for help. This is where he finds the face of his own wife, who, unlike the others, is motionless and unresponsive. This is how suicide victims exist in hell, trapped in their own denial. He then falls further into the depths of hell, and this is where she truly resides. She still believes she is alive, but wallowing in depression on earth. Her personal hell is to live in the numb, meaningless sorrow of depression forever. Number 3. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Surprisingly, for such a goofy, time-travelling kids film, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey portrays one of the most psychologically disturbing versions of hell, rather than the one-size-fits-all versions of a gruesome underworld. Each individual has to re-experience uniquely frightening events. Yet again, Keanu Reeves stars alongside Alex Winter as the bumbling time travellers. Each is dropped into a maze of hallways not dissimilar to the backrooms. Each door contains a psychologically horrifying personal hell, both past and present, personalised for each victim. For example, a feared future in military school turns into childhood re-experiences of terror, of being forced to kiss a grandmother, and imaginations of a real and terrifying Easter bunny. Number 4. 1408. 1408 or 1408, starring John Cusack, is adapted from a short story of the same name by king of horror literature, Stephen King. The short story and subsequent film were inspired by Dante's Inferno and the journey through the 9 circles of hell. In the film, a writer who specialises in debunking haunted houses visits the mysterious Dolphin Hotel and demands to stay in the restricted room 1408. The skeptic soon turns into a believer as cycles of traumatic experiences begin, each one more devastating than the next. Each level is more psychologically damaging than the next. For example, in one circle, a home video of his dead daughter and wife plays on the TV. He then envisions his elderly father slumped in a wheelchair, abandoned in a nursing home. But most chillingly of all, he is given the chance to once again see his little girl. After embracing her in a hug, she is cruelly snatched away as she dies and turns into ashes in front of him. This is reminiscent of Orpheus losing the love of his life after leaving Hades, because he glanced back to look at his beloved Eurydice whilst leaving the land of the dead. He also has to battle different elements such as wind, rain, heat and cold. Number 5. South Park. Bigger, longer and uncut. Of course, not all depictions of hell need to be horrifically depressing. As it turns out, hell can actually be pretty funny, as shown by South Park the movie. Kenny is sent to hell when he sets himself on fire and dies, lighting a fire with a match. His descent to hell is a tremendous piece of cinematography, well beyond the expectations of comedy animation. He travels down a vortex of flames whilst skeletal souls including Hitler and Gandhi tear him apart as a thumping soundtrack plays. Hell in this film is the traditional, fiery pit of despair that most people envisage when they picture hell. However, what they perhaps don't envisage is Satan and Saddam Hussein ruling over hell as a homosexual couple. Hilariously, in the film, the highly sex-charged Saddam constantly tries to seduce Satan, and it is made clear that Satan is the bottom. Satan in turn is surprisingly thoughtful, sentimental and kind-hearted, despite torturing the inhabitants of hell.